Greetings, booktubers, and welcome to a quick channel update here at Grammaticus Books. So what I'm going to do on this episode is I'm going to go over the books I've just recently read, what I'm currently reading, a little mini book haul that I got, and then lastly, I'm going to talk about a communication that I got here on the channel from the estate of Roger Zelazny via Roger Zelazny's son, Trent Zelazny, and I'll save that for last. So what have I currently read here at Grammaticus Books? The books I just recently, most recently finished up were Robert E. Heinlein's Starship Troopers and his other book, Stranger in a Strange Land. And I reread those books in order to do a video on Robert E. Heinlein and his politics and how they may or may not have changed over time. I originally read these books back when I was a teenager, so it was fascinating to do a reread of them here as an adult and see if my opinion on them had changed, and it has. I was rather surprised. I liked Stranger in a Strange Land much better than I did Starship Troopers, which for me was a big surprise because I'm a big military science fiction guy, and I thought for sure that I would like Troopers better than Stranger, but I didn't. Troopers is a good novel at the start. You have good military science fiction at the opening chapter. You've got good military science fiction in the closing chapter, and then everything in between in that book is Robert A. Heinlein doing a political treatise. And I don't think your average reader is going to enjoy that book as much as they are Stranger in a Strange Land, which is more of your typical science fiction book. It's got your typical science fiction arc. It's got more engaging and more in-depth characters and a story that's just more enjoyable, that rides through the whole novel versus the story in Troopers. And for that reason, I actually enjoyed Stranger in a Strange Land better than I did Starship Troopers. The other book that I finished up was The Return of Tarzan. It's the second book in Edgar Rice Burroughs' Tarzan series. It was great. It was a fun romp, a great fantasy novel by Edgar Rice Burroughs, following right in the same vein as the first one, Tarzan of the Apes. It reminded me quite a bit of the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark in terms of the pacing, in terms of the action, in terms of changing all the locales, all these exotic locales all the time. It really did remind me quite a bit of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I will say at the end, towards the end of the book, Tarzan gets thrown overboard off of a ship and he winds up getting washed ashore on the west coast of Africa. And he gets washed up in almost the exact same spot where his family was marooned some 20 plus years prior. And then within a couple of months of that happening to Tarzan, Jane Porter, the love of his life, and her entourage get shipwrecked in almost the exact same spot where they were thrown ashore a couple of years prior and where Tarzan had just washed up a couple of months prior. I think they're going to have to declare this section of the west coast of Africa as the new Bermuda Triangle of Africa because of all the strange occurrences and shipwrecks and maroonings that happened around Tarzan and everybody related to Tarzan at this one point on this 4,000-mile coast. Either that or you're going to have to pull in divine intervention to explain it. But it did make for a good plot, and it was a very enjoyable book. I'm glad I read it. I'm going to keep reading the Tarzan novels. And then the other thing that I've been reading, continuing to read, I should say, is Thor Omnibus number 2. I've got through about another 90 pages of Thor. I'm getting very close to the end. And when I finish this up, this really good book here, Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, I will do a complete video on Omnibuses number 1 and 2. So that's what I've been reading, or what I've read. What am I currently reading? My current physical book I have is Anne McCaffrey, The Cholera. I am just going to dub this The Cholera. That is going to be the name of this book from today and henceforth going forward. It shall be known as The Cholera by Anne McCaffrey. Now, this is not my normal fare, but there's a bit of an explanation to why I have this book and why I'm currently reading it. And I'm going to save that for when I do the book haul, because that's where this book came up. So that's my physical book. The audiobook that I've currently got going is The Children of Ash and Elm, which is a history of the Vikings that's by Neil Price. It was recommended to me very highly by a coworker. I went out and I saw it on Amazon and Goodreads. It has just astronomically high ratings. My audio copy of it just came in. I just started it, and I'm really looking forward to The Children of Ash and Elm, and I'll certainly do a video on that one when I finish it up. So the book haul. Last week, my middle daughter reached out and said, why don't we meet at the coffee shop that's close to the campus where she goes to school. And this coffee shop maintains a couple of spinner racks where the owner of the coffee shop is continually buying new vintage science fiction and fantasy and putting them onto the spinner racks. So we were going there for coffee and to check out the books. And when we got there, my daughter goes, if I pick a book off there and get it for you, do you promise to read it? And I'm thinking to myself, well, how bad can it be? It's all vintage science fiction and fantasy. So perhaps foolishly, I agreed to this deal. And she reached down, and the first book she grabbed was Anne McCaffrey, The Cholera, which she knows I don't like Anne McCaffrey. Anne McCaffrey's not my favorite author. And judging by the cover of it, she thought that this was going to be painful, and she wasn't wrong. Let me read you a little bit off the back of Anne McCaffrey's The Cholera. So here's off of the back of the book, giving you a little background on the story. The Lady Kaisa, heir to the ambassador to the world of Demethorn, has grown up knowing that she owes her sire obedience and loyalty. She is expected to do her duty, even by entering into marriage with a man she despises. Lady Kaisa does not know it, but she has just set into motion events that will determine the fate of her family, her planet, and her happiness. Shoot me now. Just shoot me now. Put me out of my misery. However, there is a silver lining to this story, to this tale of woe. This book is 154 pages long. However, 64 pages of this book are filled with interior artwork by Ned Dameron. I think that's right, Ned Dameron, yep. And the artwork, the interior artwork is actually pretty decent, but over a third of this book is interior art. So it's not that long. The other good news, the other silver lining to this is that the font on this book is gigantic. It's a huge font. So between the 64 pages of interior artwork and the giant font, the actual size of this book is probably about 50 pages or maybe even a little less. What I think they did is this was a novelette. It wasn't long enough to print and make it look like a full-size book that you would buy off the shelf. So they filled it up with artwork and then increased the font to make it look like a regular size book. So that's my silver lining on this one. The other books that I picked up there off of the spinner racks of goodness are The Dark Tide by Dennis McKiernan. This is book one in the Iron Trilogy, the Iron Tower Trilogy, which I hear is quite similar to The Lord of the Rings, maybe a little too similar, with a really nice cover there by Alan Lee, who looks like he's channeling Hieronymus Bosch there. Hieronymus Bosch's artwork, but that's nice artwork by Alan Lee. So got the Dark Tower, or the Dark Tide, pardon me. And then the other book I got was Tunnel in the Sky by Robert A. Heinlein. I'm a sucker for Robert A. Heinlein books. And The Hand of Zay by L. Sprague de Camp. This is book 2 in the Krishna series. Really like that cover with the mastodon pulling the giant train down the tracks. Although I hear that this series does not have the best reviews. And then the last book I picked up is by John DeChancy, and it's Castle Kidnapped. It's the third book by DeChancy in the Castle series. This little bit of humor, fantasy humor, and it looks pretty interesting. I thought that would be a fun read, a good little quick fun read. So that was my little mini book haul off of the Spinner Racks of Goodness at the coffee shop there by my daughter. I will get through that book, The Cholera, there pretty quick. I might even be able to finish that in a single read. Which brings me to the contact by the estate of Roger Zelazny. So 3 days ago, Trent Zelazny reached out to me via the channel, and he reached out to me regarding a video that I shot all the way back in October. It was one of the first videos I did here on the channel, and it was a review of the Amber Chronicles, which is a series that I just absolutely love by Roger Zelazny. It's one of the favorite series of books that I've read in recent memory. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it a very positive review here on the channel. But at the end of that review, I mentioned that Stephen Colbert had been appointed as the executive producer, or was named the executive producer back in January of 2023 for a potential TV series that was going to be made out of the Amber Chronicles. And at the end of that video, I mentioned that I was a little concerned that I thought that Stephen Colbert might not be the right person to produce the content of the Amber Chronicles. And I left it at that. But then 3 days ago, Trent Zelazny reached out, contacted me to let me know that, yes, indeed, Stephen Colbert is involved in this TV series that's being produced. However, the person who was the actual purchaser of the property was Robert Kirkman. Now, Robert Kirkman was involved in The Walking Dead. He was involved in the comic book of The Walking Dead and with the TV series that was made off of the comic book. And he's a very talented guy. He's also handling it via his entertainment company, which is known as Skybound Entertainment. So Skybound Entertainment is going to be producing the new Amber Chronicles television series, and Robert Kirkman is the person who is the actual owner of the property rights, so the purchaser of the property rights. And that's good news for us because Robert Kirkman knows what he's doing. And Trent Zelazny wanted me to know and the channel to know, and I figured I should let you guys know that Robert Kirkman will be the person probably most involved in how that project goes forward. And I certainly hope that when it gets done, that it's done to Trent Zelazny's liking, and that it's done in the manner in which that Amber Chronicles series certainly deserves to be done. And I think Robert Kirkman will be faithful to the books. And will be interesting to see when that gets produced, what it's like. But that's good news for us, and it's good news for the Amber Chronicles. But that's it. That's the channel update here. I'll get this up here very soon. And other than that, I'm going to say take care, be safe, and I will catch you guys next time.